argues this is all just the work of conspiracy theorists.
There's been so much work done that even ripperologists themselves, apart from the lunatic fringe, accept that it is a conspiracy theory, that there is no historical fact in it.
Everything you've read about Freemason links to Jack the Ripper is the work of fiction.
Whilst there seems to be no links to Masonry in either the crimes of Jack the Ripper or a subsequent police cover-up, there are still some who insist Masons were involved in Roberto Calvi's murder.
It's an interesting comparison between the Ripper case and the Calvi case and the way people reacted. With Calvi, everybody assumed because of the way he was found and because of the background to it and the fact that the mafia were after him, the Italian police were after him, there was an awful, huge amount of money missing from the bank. Everybody assumed, and it certainly looked as though it was suicide. But it was quite some months after the event, and when people started to doubt whether it was suicide, that suddenly, rather like the Ripper case, the Masonic element suddenly comes in, oh, it's the Masons again.
Conspiracy theories like Jack the Ripper and Calvi left the Freemasons bruised. They fuel public suspicion about an organization that meets in secret and keeps its practices silent. But there is still no actual evidence of Freemasonry involvement in Calvi's death.
I don't think that Freemasons in general had anything to do with it at all. That doesn't mean that whoever did perpetrate the murder, assuming he was murdered, didn't try and make it look like some kind of Masonic killing. But I personally don't think so. No, I don't think that the Freemasons had anything to do with it.
So who else had the motive?
Assuming the Mafia killed him, the Mafia had a couple of motives. One was the fact they'd lost money through him. They'd entrusted money to Calvi to be laundered and all the rest of it, and this money had just gone up in smoke with the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano. That's the one and most likely reason. I think the fear was, from the Mafia's point of view, that if he confessed, he would confess and tell terrible secrets about the Mafia, which the Mafia obviously doesn't like at all.
One of the reasons that many people jumped to the conclusion that Masons were involved in the death of Roberto Calvi was because the Freemasons had been associated with the mysterious disappearance of a Masonic brother before. In 1826, William Morgan of Western New York is a novice Mason who boasts that he is about to publish a book revealing the Brotherhood's deepest secrets. He was locked in a jail for allegedly stealing another man's shirt and tie, for not paying a debt of $2.69. Suddenly, a gang of men come to town, pay his bail, and cart William Morgan away.
His abductors were Masons. He was forced into a carriage and driven off, shouting, "Murder, murder." We don't know what happened after that. His body was never found. But as the event snowballed, it was, wait a minute, this is a group within a group, a government within a government, men operating behind the scenes, murdering whom they will. What are they doing? And so from this unauthorized event by local Masons in Batavia, New York, a wave of anti-Masonry swept the country.
As the hysteria multiplies, New York's 228 Masonic lodges slowly dwindled to only 45.
You had newspapers established that were anti-Masonic newspapers, and their purpose was to expose the evil tentacles that Freemasonry had spread out into society and was using to strangle off, well, I'm not sure what the Masons were supposed to be strangling. Maybe free speech, maybe, I don't know what. But the Freemasons were there doing bad things.
Many of the misconceptions about Freemasonry come from anti-Masonic books. And none more inventive than Leo Taxil, an author and one of the greatest purveyors of Masonic lies of all time.
There have been some incredible hoaxes like the one done by Leo Taxil in the 19th century, where he fabricated this whole conspiracy theory about Masons working to take over the world and league with the devil.
In 1881, Taxil joined a Masonic lodge, but was quickly expelled for his repeated run-in with the law over plagiarism. He then later turned his literary talents against Freemasonry by writing a book which stated that the Masons conducted sex orgies, performed ritual murders, and even worshipped the devil.
Leo Taxil developed a whole literature claiming Freemasonry as being anti-clerical, claiming that the ceremonies were like satanic masses. Then when everybody started to investigate it, held a public meeting and said, sorry guys, I was having you on.
That sort of rumor lives today, especially on places like the internet, where you can find just about any sort of variant of a conspiracy theory. So it fits well with the internet penchant for exaggeration or misinformation.
Popular authors like Dan Brown help feed the public's appetite for conspiracy theories.
If I were a novelist like Dan Brown, and I needed a good plot device, I needed an organization that had chapters in many places, that was cloaked in a history of mystery and secrecy, you couldn't do better than to pick on Freemasonry.
Dan Brown's interesting, but one of the surprises might be that we are the heroes rather than the villains that everyone is expecting us to be.
It's a very interesting situation where Freemasonry has been hijacked by many popular authors to promote a particular theory. I'm not saying that that's wrong in any way, but it's interesting that Freemasonry or Freemasons in the main have not been asked if what they're writing is actually correct. Sadly, frequently it's not.
Even though the Freemasons are now hoping to stop these conspiracy theories by opening up their doors to the media and to the public, it will always be hard for them to clear their name completely.